Turns out, many dog owners have been making the same mistake over and over again without even realizing it. One of the most common ways we interact with our pups, petting them on the head, might actually be damaging your relationship with your dog, one pet at a time. In this video, we'll explain why petting your dog on the head might not be as innocent as it seems, how to tell when your pup is upset with the way you're petting them, and the best ways to approach and pet both your dog and any random doggos you meet out and about. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more helpful tips for keeping your dog happy and healthy. Let's get started. When we pet our dogs, it's often the head that we reach for first. It seems like the most natural spot, right? After all, the head is the highest point on their body, and in many ways, it feels instinctive for us as humans to show affection by patting or stroking the top of their head. We're used to doing this with children or loved ones, so it makes sense that we would do the same with our dogs. In fact, many people associate petting the head with positive feelings, assuming that it's a universally comforting gesture for all animals. After all, petting is a sign of love, and if we love our dogs, surely they love it too. But here's the catch. From a dog's point of view, things aren't quite so simple. While we see the head as the highest point, to a dog, it's often where they feel the most vulnerable. Imagine how you'd feel if someone much larger than you approached from above to touch your head. For dogs who already perceive us as towering giants, being petted on the head can feel overwhelming, uncomfortable, or even intimidating. It's not their natural instinct to have someone reach out to touch them in that way. Some dogs may tolerate this behavior, especially if they've been conditioned to it over time, but that doesn't mean they enjoy it. In fact, it's more likely that they've learned to endure it because they recognize it as part of the human-dog interaction. But for many dogs, petting on the head isn't a source of comfort. It's just something they'll put up with. It's important to realize that dogs, like us, have their own preferences when it comes to physical touch, and the way we show affection isn't always the way they want to receive it. Understanding this difference in perspective can make a huge difference in your relationship with your dog. While we may see head petting as a natural form of bonding, for many dogs, it may not be the most reassuring or enjoyable interaction. Instead, we need to learn how to approach them in a way that feels safe and comfortable for them, because ultimately, our goal is to show them love in a way they can truly appreciate. If you're a dog owner, you know that petting your dog is an everyday interaction that can strengthen your bond. However, what many people don't realize is that dogs communicate their feelings in a variety of ways, some more subtle than others. While the obvious signs, like growling or snapping, are easy to spot, dogs often give us quieter cues to let us know they're not enjoying the interaction. Understanding these subtle signs is crucial to making sure you're not unintentionally causing your dog discomfort, and it helps maintain a healthy and trusting relationship. One of the most common and easiest signs to spot is when your dog physically moves away. This could be as simple as them ducking their head, taking a step back, or even trying to walk away when you reach for them. This is your dog's way of telling you they're not comfortable with the petting, and continuing after they show this discomfort can create unnecessary stress and tension. Respecting your dog's boundaries here is crucial. When they back away, it's your cue to stop and give them space. Another key signal of discomfort is the positioning of their ears. Dogs are incredibly expressive with their ears, and their movements often reveal how they're feeling. When a dog is upset, anxious, or not in the mood for affection, their ears will often flatten or pin back against their head. This is an instinctive response that dogs use to express unease. If you see your dog doing this, it's a good idea to stop petting them and give them time to calm down. Pressing on when a dog has pinned back ears can escalate their discomfort, which could harm your relationship in the long run. Dogs also exhibit something known as displacement behaviors, which are subtle signs of stress or anxiety. These behaviors aren't always obvious, but they can tell you a lot about how your dog is feeling. For example, you might notice your dog licking their lips, yawning, or even scratching when they haven't been active. These actions are their way of releasing tension, and they often occur when they're feeling stressed or uncomfortable but don't know how to express it directly. Essentially, your dog might want to move away from the petting but will suppress that instinct to avoid appearing aggressive or rude. If you see these behaviors, it's time to back off and give your dog some space. One of the more obvious signs to watch out for is the whale eye. This happens when you see the whites of your dog's eyes, often accompanied by tense body language or a stiff posture. The whale eye is a clear sign that your dog is feeling stressed, anxious, or uncomfortable, and it's often a precursor to more aggressive or defensive behavior if the petting continues. When you spot whale eye, it's crucial to stop petting immediately and allow your dog to retreat if they want to. This is their way of telling you they need a break from the interaction. Understanding these subtle signs of discomfort is vital for creating a more harmonious relationship with your dog. By learning to read your dog's body language and respecting their boundaries, you can ensure that the affection you give is always welcomed. The more you pay attention to these cues, the better you'll be at understanding your dog's needs and emotions. This mutual respect will not only help keep your dog happy and relaxed, but will also strengthen the bond you share. After all, a dog that feels safe and understood is much more likely to return your affection willingly. So, as you go forward, remember that petting is not just about showing affection. It's also about listening to what your dog is telling you. By staying in tune with their subtle cues, you'll be able to deepen your connection in a way that feels good for both of you. When it comes to petting your own dog, the way you approach them matters a lot. The first step is to approach from the side rather than from the front. Dogs often perceive humans as larger and more intimidating when we approach head-on, so coming from the side feels less confrontational to them. Start by gently petting their shoulders or the upper back, areas where most dogs feel more comfortable. This gives them a chance to relax and get used to your touch. As you do so, it's important to observe their body language closely. If your dog becomes stiff or tenses up under your touch, it's a sign that they're not enjoying the petting, and you should stop immediately. On the other hand, if they seem to relax and lean into your touch, it's a good sign that they're comfortable and you can continue. Once your dog is at ease, you can move down their spine, heading toward the base of the tail. Many dogs love being petted in this area, and some might even turn around to encourage you to keep going. However, there's one exception to the no-head petting rule, right behind the ears. This spot is difficult for dogs to reach themselves, and it's filled with nerve endings, which is why many dogs enjoy gentle scratching there. But remember, only do this with a dog that you've already built a bond with. When it comes to interacting with a stranger's dog, it's crucial to always ask the owner for permission before you attempt to pet them. Not all dogs are as comfortable with strangers, and some may be anxious or reactive. The owner will know whether it's safe to approach their dog, and asking for permission is not only respectful, but it also ensures that both you and the dog are safe. Once you have the owner's consent, approach the dog calmly and extend your hand toward their nose, but don't touch them right away. Allow the dog to sniff your hand and get a sense of who you are. If the dog moves away, that's a sign they're not interested in interaction, so respect their space and move on. If the dog approaches you and seems comfortable, you can gently pet them, starting with their shoulders or the upper back. Avoid petting their head, tail, or paws, as these areas can be more sensitive for dogs, especially if they don't know you well. By following these steps, you can ensure that your interactions with unfamiliar dogs are positive and respectful, creating a better experience for everyone involved. It's important to be aware of your dog's preferences when it comes to physical contact. Certain areas of their body are much more sensitive than others, and petting them in these areas can make them uncomfortable or even stressed. For instance, most dogs don't appreciate being petted on their tail. The tail is closely connected to the spinal cord, and although it's not technically part of the spine, any injury to the tail can lead to neurological issues. This makes dogs particularly protective of their tails. Additionally, the tail is a highly expressive part of a dog's body language, and disturbing it can cause unnecessary discomfort or anxiety. Similarly, the paws are another area to avoid unless you're specifically training or grooming your dog. The paws are sensitive because they contain many nerve endings, and they're also associated with balance. Grabbing or touching them unexpectedly can make a dog feel uneasy or even unbalanced, so it's best to approach them with care. Another thing to keep in mind is that dogs generally don't like being hugged or restrained, even if they don't show overt signs of discomfort. While we might think of hugs as a loving gesture, for many dogs, they can feel confining. The sensation of being unable to move freely can lead to anxiety, especially if the dog isn't used to being handled in that way. Even if your dog doesn't seem to mind at first, it's important to understand that they may feel stressed but simply don't have the opportunity to escape. This can damage the trust between you and your dog over time, so it's better to avoid holding them tightly or restricting their movement. Lastly, when it comes to petting in general, it's crucial not to go overboard. While it's tempting to shower your dog with affection, petting sessions should be brief and spaced out. Experts recommend keeping petting sessions short, around 10 to 15 seconds, with small breaks in between. This gives your dog a chance to decide if they want more attention or if they need a break. If your dog walks away or turns their head, that's a clear indication that they're done, and you should respect their boundaries. By keeping interactions short and respectful, you're more likely to have a positive experience and maintain a strong bond with your dog. If you're concerned about strangers petting your dog inappropriately, there are a few simple steps you can take to protect your dog and ensure they're comfortable. First and foremost, always advocate for your dog. If a stranger approaches and asks to pet them, it's perfectly okay to say no if you feel it's not the right situation. You know your dog best, and their comfort should always come first. If your dog seems nervous or reactive around strangers, kindly explain that they prefer not to be touched by unfamiliar people. If you're comfortable with the interaction and your dog seems relaxed enough, you can guide the stranger on where to pet. For example, you could say, "She loves being petted on her shoulders," or "Please avoid touching her head or paws." Most dog lovers will be more than happy to respect your wishes, as they want to make the experience pleasant for both you and your dog. Setting clear boundaries will help ensure that your dog stays calm and stress-free during the encounter. As we wrap up, it's clear that petting your dog might seem like a simple act, but there's more to it than meets the eye. Understanding your dog's body language and respecting their boundaries can turn an ordinary interaction into a positive experience. Whether it's your dog or a stranger's, paying attention to their cues and showing affection in ways they're comfortable with is key to building a stronger bond. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more tips on how to care for your furry friend. And for more insight into the mind of your dog, check out this video to find out how to tell if your dog adores you. Thanks for watching, and remember to keep showing your dog love in ways they can truly appreciate.